On any list of London's world famous foods, you're gonna find the full English breakfast in the #1 spot, and that's why we have to start our day right here at E Pellici, a family-owned cafe that opened up in 1900 here in East London. Now, the full English breakfast is a big plate, so you gotta bring your appetite. Narissa and I are actually gonna split this between the two of us. Mushrooms, tomatoes, baked beans, hash browns, toast, sausage, bacon, black pudding, and 2 over-easy eggs. Of course, you know we had to order a couple of coffees. You know how we do. No cream, but a little bit of sugar today. We are in London after all. What's really good, YouTube? It's Louis Gusto. Narissa's behind the camera. Welcome back to London. You know what time it is. We've shown you the iconic foods of Chicago and New York City, but now we're gonna take you all around England's capital city to eat some of the most world famous foods, full English breakfast, fish and chips, and so much more. Before we get started, you know what to do. Finesse that like button. If we get this to 1,000 likes, we'll take you around for more London neighborhood guides and food tours.
Good morning from East London. I am hyped for this full English breakfast. We chose this place because it's family owned, and you know that's how we do. I want these hash browns because they look beautiful and crispy. Check it out. Low key, this hash brown is amazing. I don't really love beans, but I'm gonna try them anyway. After all, this is an English breakfast and you gotta go all the way. These beans are in like a tomato sauce, so it kind of goes really nice with the hash browns. It's like ketchup.
Now, like I said, E Pellici has been around since 1900. It was started by a man named Priamo Pellici. He came here with his family from Italy. After he passed away, his wife Elide took over, and that's the E in E Pellici. Now, after she passed away, another man named Mr. Nevio took over, and since then, it's been in that same family. So it has been family owned here in East London for the past 122 years. That's amazing. We had to go with the full English breakfast, a.k.a. the fry-up. This type of breakfast is not exclusive to England. You can also get it in Scotland, in Wales, in Ireland, and in each case it's called by whatever country you're in. So full Irish breakfast, etc., etc. The ingredients may change also from country to country, but more or less you're gonna get this type of plate. There's so much to choose from, I don't even know where to start, but I guess I'll start with some beans. Little mushroom action. Like I said, we've got some sausage in here, hash brown. We're on their little street patio, which they normally only have on Saturdays, but today is a Monday. It's been super hot in London lately, so it's nice to be able to eat outdoors. On a cooler day, I definitely would want to eat inside the cafe. So far, all of this food is super good. The sausage was flavorful, hash brown, nice and crispy. Mushrooms, you know how mushrooms are. I know I'm gonna end up eating most of the baked beans because Narissa's not really a bean fan, so more for me. Great bacon. A little bit different from American bacon. Black pudding. Amazing. Gonna get some more of these beans. Look at that. Wow. Of course, gotta get a little piece of tomato. So good. You might want to look away because I'm about to destroy this plate.
This is so much food, not even Rowdy could finish this.
The next iconic food of London that we're gonna be devouring today is the pie and mash. Pies are a food that originated in London on the docks of the River Thames, but back in those days, it was all about eel pies. Why eel? It was one of the only members of the aquatic animal kingdom that could actually survive in the polluted River Thames back in the day. Nowadays, there are many more varieties, including steak and chicken, and yeah, you can still get eel pies, but we wanted to bring in a vegan meal for our top 10 iconic foods of London, so we went with the Mooless Moo here at Pieminster on Leather Lane. This has a jackfruit steak and craft ale. We got it with a side of mushy peas. It also has a vegan gravy all over it. It looks really good. A couple of years ago, I went to the Pieminster in Borough Market and I really, really enjoyed it. So I'm super hyped to be back. Here we go, Mooless Moo vegan pie. Some mushy peas to go with it. Last time we had mushy peas, we were at Dog and Bone in Manhattan. These peas though have a little bit of a minty flavor and they go perfectly with the ale and steak flavor of this vegan pie. The pie crust is super flaky and crispy and the inside savory gravy, hearty jackfruit steak. Such a good combo. Mooless Moo is what it's called. Remember that, write it down, take a picture, whatever you need to do. It's really, really good. Let's get into more of it.
Now I have had cherry pies, peach pies, apple. This is my very first British pie. I really like that gravy. Here at Pieminster, there are so many pies to choose from, including the classic steak and ale.
This is a cop-out, I know, but it really doesn't even taste like it's vegan. Whatever that means to you, That was an incredible vegan pie and mushy peas. We're here in Farringdon, but we're about to go across London to find some more of those famous foods. Let's go. We know you were expecting this. Number one, because I said it at the beginning of the film, but number two, because fish and chips is the most iconic British food. It's often considered Britain's national dish. And so, of course, in London, you know you're gonna find fish and chip shops everywhere. It started appearing about the 1860s. By the 1910s, there were about 25,000. And some say that the fried fish were introduced by Spanish and Portuguese merchants back in the day. But in any case, now this is definitely a quintessential British food. We're at the Mayfair Chippy because we wanted to do it right. They've won all kinds of awards since opening up in 2015, including an AA Rosette. They are on the Michelin Guide year after year. When they opened up this restaurant, the founders wanted it to be a quintessential British chippy shop. What we got here is the Mayfair Classic, 2 gigantic pieces of fried cod on top of a basket of chips, classic curry, and the tartar sauce. Some mushy peas to go with that. I've had fish and chips a lot in my life. I've had them frozen, I've had them at a pub, I've had them every which way, but I've never had, until today, a classic fish and chips experience here in London. Traditional way of serving it is on top of newspapers, but they really don't do newspapers anymore, so we just got the regular food safe paper that's kind of got that newspaper look. It's a beautiful day here in Mayfair. That's a nice fried fish. Of course, gotta have it with a couple of chips. Gonna get a little tartar sauce on the fish. The fish definitely gets a chance to shine. I encourage you to dip it in the sauces though, because the sauces really bring it to life. Otherwise, the fish and the chips by themselves don't have too much of a flavor. Has a good curry sauce. Look at that. Flaky fish.
The Mayfair Chippy takes its name from Mayfair, which is such a posh neighborhood. It is a beautiful day outside, and boy are we glad, because we had to wait in a queue for these award-winning fish and chips. I already snuck myself a chippy right before we filmed. Typically, tartar sauce to me tastes a bit mayonnaise-y. This has a lot of flavor. Wow, so flaky. It's like what you would get at a high-end seafood restaurant, but it just happens to be fried. You can see and taste the frying oil, but Louis and I both agree that when you actually eat it, it doesn't feel heavy. We have never had fish and chips this gourmet.
We've had our full English breakfast, our pie and mushy peas, and fish and chips. But it's about that time of afternoon. Coffee, you think? No. It is time for afternoon tea. We are at the Stafford, a 5-star luxury hotel that Narissa and I plan to be invited to someday. The tea ceremony dates back to the 1840s, but back in the day, it was really a very private social event for the upper echelon of women's society. It kind of evolved as a way to have some food and drink, to not be so hungry before dinner. Hey, I can't disagree with something like that. But it wasn't really until Queen Victoria started hosting these grand afternoon tea parties that it really became popular and exploded. We have a 3-tiered tea stand. We have cigars, tuxedos, and top hats. These are all from local St. James Bakery. The second level is scones, raisin, cheese, and chive, and plain, if you're not into all that flavor. We chose 2 different teas. Mine is the Queen Stafford blend. So what you want to do is pour yourself the hot tea through the filter so it gets all the leaves and loose stuff. Get yourself a little cube of sugar. You can also add cream if you want, but I'm just gonna stick with sugar today. This is definitely an occasional indulgence. I can't see any reason you'd want to do this every single day, especially with our fast-paced lifestyles. But you know, we're celebrating today because we are filming the most iconic foods that you can find right here in London. So with that, cheers. Nice and warm and very fragrant. Let's go for these 3 sandwiches. Ham. Smoked salmon. And finally, cucumber. Crispy and refreshing.
When Louis first told me that we were going to be filming the iconic foods of London, my first plan of action was to find the most phenomenal place that we could go for afternoon tea. All the research that I did was so worth it. The theme of our afternoon tea is a journey through St. James. One of the other things that I think is so underrated is cucumber sandwiches. These are like probably my favorite things about afternoon tea, but nobody really talks about them. They talk about scones, clotted cream. Those are great, but I like me a nice cucumber sandwich. Got my tea with cream and sugar.
So far, we've had 4 of London's most famous foods, but we're not done yet. We have 6 more to go. And if you are enjoying this film, make sure you subscribe. Indian food is legendary in London. For a while, India was a colony of England, so a lot of immigrants came from that region of the world to the UK. Of course, they brought their culture and food with them. Chicken tikka masala is one of the most popular Indian dishes in the UK, and some say that it was invented by Indian chefs who came to London and basically were putting a new spin on the traditional cuisine, kind of like Chinese American food in the United States. But today we went with a more traditional dish, which is chicken tikka. Dishoom chicken tikka is a family recipe. They use vinegar instead of yogurt in this recipe and a variety of other spices. Then it's grilled up. They also got a side of basmati rice. I personally experienced some of that great food during my trips to London. So of course we had to represent for the Indian cuisine with a stop to Dishoom, which is a collection of Indian restaurants with locations all over London. Today we're in the Carnaby, Soho location. Chicken tikka. I can definitely taste that vinegar. The difference between chicken tikka and chicken tikka masala, in case you're wondering, is that the tikka masala has a tomatoey, buttery sauce that goes on top of all the chicken. But both chicken tikka and chicken tikka masala are super popular in London, and that's why it is an iconic London food.
I like how it's decorated with some cilantro and some onions. I don't know if I'm brave enough to try the onions today. This chicken tikka is so fragrant. I'm gonna try it plain without any of the chutney. I wanna get the full effect of the flavor. It's a little tiny bit spicy, a little bit smoky even. Earlier today we had stopped at the Dishoom in Shoreditch, but unfortunately we were there so early that they were still serving breakfast. Every single time that we have been passing by Dishoom, it's just been so busy. And now I can see why.
The next famous food in London is actually an import from Cornwall. It's the pasty. It's not the first time that we've had pasties on this channel. If you remember from our Humboldt Park, Chicago neighborhood guide, we had pastes at Cafe Pachuca. That is a result of Cornish workers, tin miners, going to Mexico, and they brought their Cornish pasties, which then became pastes. Look at that. Cornish pasties were originally a food for the wealthy, but then in the 17th and 18th century, they became very popular with tin miners. You can take it wherever. I think this is where Hot Pockets got the idea. This is the traditional Cornish steak with potatoes. It's very good. It stays nice and warm. You don't get your hands in a super mess, although it is a little bit flaky. And even though it wasn't created in London, it is definitely super popular here. And we're just standing here in the middle of King's Cross Station, enjoying a traditional Cornish pasty here in London. We are back in Soho at Mother Mash to eat our next two iconic London foods. Mushy peas, which you can get as a side at pretty much any restaurant in the UK, and bangers and mash, probably the dopest, coolest, funniest name of any of the legendary foods that we've been eating today here in London. Why are they called bangers if they're sausages? During World War I, there was so much water content in the sausages because of meat shortages and rationing and all that, that when you would cook them, they would pop. That's why they're called bangers, according to local legend. But we did go with the vegan option today. Vegetable sausage, vegetable gravy. We were told that they are really known for their mash here. So we got butter and cheese in them. Still a vegetarian safe meal, but you can get a vegan mash if you do want to. We're about to get into some bangers and mash, vegan style. Mash.
I love mashed potatoes, or as they call here, mash. Gotta get a nice bite. That is legit.
Vegan banger. That is really delicious for a vegan sausage. All right, check out those mushy peas. We've been eating them everywhere, so they were a low-key iconic food. I knew you saw this one coming. Whenever Narissa and I film an iconic foods of whatever city, we have to include at least one dessert. In Chicago, it was the iconic cinnamon rolls. In New York City, it was that famous New York style cheesecake. Here in London, it is the sticky toffee pudding. You don't get more British than that when it comes to desserts. We saw it on the Great British Bake Off and have been waiting for so long to try it. So a sticky toffee pudding consists of a sponge cake with dates, nuts, and spices like cloves. They topped it off today with some ice cream. The sauce, which is the most important part part of the sticky toffee is basically some dark sugars and double cream. It's kind of crazy because we're eating our dessert before we get our main, which is another iconic London food. We won't tell you just yet. I think they looked at us kind of sideways for that, but that's okay because we're doing it all for you, Gusto Nation. So for the first time, I'm gonna taste a sticky toffee pudding, traditional British style. Wow. Yo. Personally, I love spices like nutmeg, cinnamon, and cloves. Nuts and dates are a food that I eat often because I get those little organic, natural protein bars. So this dessert is right in my wheelhouse. It is so delicious. The ice cream on top is a nice bonus, but I can eat it without the ice cream, to be honest.
Eating dessert first is like having cake for breakfast. Let's try the sticky toffee pudding. I guess toffee has kind of like a similar flavor to caramel. That is really good. This is such a happy dessert. I don't think Gordon Ramsay would yell at anyone who's making this.
The largest and most expensive, iconic London food that we're eating today is the beef Wellington. At Gordon Ramsay's Bread Street Kitchen, this is an experience. It brings mashed potatoes and some carrots on the side. Takes about 45 minutes to bake, so just like a deep dish pizza, you want to order it early, then maybe get some starters, or in our case, a sticky toffee pudding. Many consider this to be Gordon Ramsay's greatest dish, and you know he's famous for so many things, so that definitely speaks volumes. They say that beef Wellington is named for the Duke of Wellington, but some historians say that it's actually a British renaming of a classic French dish. I guess we'll never know. Regardless, it is legendary here in London and the rest of Great Britain. It's a perfect meal when you're celebrating. And as a matter of fact, today we hit 30,000 subscribers here in London, so we're definitely celebrating with a beef Wellington. It's so much food. I think we gotta bring a doggy bag across the pond for Rowdy, because he's gonna love this. Beautiful cut of beef wrapped with ham, a little crepe, and then a puff pastry really encloses everything. They do make a vegan version as well, but today we wanted to go traditional. Also has some gravy on the side. Let's get into this. Growing up, we used to eat beef Wellington all the time, so it's definitely among my favorite all-time foods, but I've never had a classic British one until today. It is so good. This flavor, I know it sounds obvious, but it is super beefy, ultimate beef, even though there's all these extras around it, like the ham, the egg, and the puff pastry. That is incredible. It's a phenomenal cut of beef, amazing filling, and wrapped up in that puff pastry just brings it home for me. A++ on this one.
What better way to celebrate 30K than hanging out in swinging London? This beef Wellington looks so elegant, and the presentation, 10 stars. Wow. It's also super mushroomy. If you love mushrooms, you'll love this.
Eating 10 of London's most famous foods all in one day was quite a challenge, but we're happy we got through it and hope you enjoyed it. In the comments, let us know where you want us to go in London next. But until then, cheers, peace, and blessings.